Well, right now, y'all, I am up. I'm up with my toddler and stuff like that. She had probably had a stuffy nose, the heat on and stuff, but she woke up with a stuffy nose. I don't got a hectic morning, but I do got a few things to do today. This morning I am doing like a little. I'm doing something right now this morning to try to earn extra cash and stuff like that. So if it worked for me, y'all, I'll try to put y'all onto it too and stuff like that. And yeah, definitely invite y'all on how y'all can just, especially like I said, I'm all for how the economy is going, saving a buck right now, making, DIYing on a budget. If you got a good hand for crafts and stuff, and it don't have to be perfect. That's the whole point of DIY, do it yourself. It's if it's nice to you. And that seemed like where it's going to be with a lot of things. Do it your own self meals, as we see on the videos. Do it yourself art in a minute. Do it yourself. I see do it yourself nails. So much do it yourself that's what it's about to be. And mine's will earn some extra cash. I don't care if it is just the extra $5, y'all. It's free. If it's free, it's free. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually leave my link in the description below. Go ahead and take advantage of that. But I'm also gonna put y'all on to how y'all can go ahead and, like I said, earn extra cash yourself. Take advantage of my code and stuff like that. So that way y'all can just jump straight into it and stuff like that, y'all. Yeah. So yeah, you guys, I'm doing this video. I'm being pretty transparent in this video. Not being vulnerable, but I'm opening up, more about myself, y'all. And obviously things ain't all pretty. It ain't all what it seems and stuff like that and whatever. But I'm pretty real. So I'm gonna tell y'all what it really is though. So I do appreciate it. I hope people liking my content. I'm just giving y'all a little bit of everything. Speaking of DIY too, if y'all like that stuff, check out some of my shorts and check out my secondary channel, D's Lifestyle too, because that's where I post a lot of my family content and stuff. Like when me and my husband take our daughter places and stuff. If y'all didn't see, we had recently celebrated our 13th anniversary. On Friday the 13th. So that was very nice. And I'm also getting into this video that leads me right into this video, y'all. So what y'all don't know, obviously, is me and Jay been together a long time. Um, I met him when I was 19, turning 20. I'm 33 now. So we've been together for a long time. He is 4.5 years older than me, almost 5. So I'm 30. I'm 33. I'll be 34 in October, and he just turned 38. So do the math and everything, y'all. I was, like I said, turning 20. He was like turning 24. He was 24 turning 25, like that. His birthday's in January, so that's how that go. And our daughter happened to be born in February. So that's crazy how that worked. uh but yeah, y'all, so we've been together a long time. Now, I'm a stay at home mom now, but obviously my story didn't start there. I met him very young, and I've always been told that I'm mature. I've always been a workaholic. I've been working since, I've been 14, turning 15. I started working at Wegmans. And a lot of people probably know what Wegmans is. I was on the Hillside Work Scholarship Program. I was on honor roll and stuff like that. So I forgot what my GPA was. It's nothing to be bragging about, anyways, because it's not serving me a purpose now. I don't work at Wegmans anymore now, and I'm not using those scholarships or anything now. Uh, and I done attempted to go back to college like 7 times since then. So, yeah, you guys. Um, and now I'm back in college now. I was a CNA for almost about, yeah, going on 11 years. This made the 11th year here. And I don't practice. Yeah, I don't practice it anymore because the field, and anybody that has been an aide, no, the field is very exhausting. I just hate, it's like a part of my past that I just hate, and I hate thinking about it. I hate talking about it, really honestly. I hate, it's that bad. Yes, it was that bad for me and traumatic. At least where I work. It's very depressing. Yeah, all that stuff, you guys. So I try to leave that part in the past, that I ever was an aide, but I have learned. It has built character for me, and it has taught me a lot of stuff. You wouldn't even think that the heat is on right now, but it is. Our house just is drafty, especially when it's snowing out. I don't. But anyways, back on point, y'all. So he's been there with me obviously through all these milestones and everything, and um, like obviously this was our very first real relationship. And I say it like that because the little flings and everything obviously don't matter. Before me, the stuff before me don't matter. I don't care, about who he was with before me and vice versa. It don't matter. That's not what counts. I married him. I married my true soulmate and everything. But anybody that's married, anybody who's been in a long, serious relationship, you know that can take a toll on you sometimes. That can take a toll on you and your spouse sometimes. And just, I'll give y'all a little more of a gist. So me and Jay did not have our first baby. If y'all been following us, y'all know. But if y'all new to this channel, hi, I'm Dominique. I'm Domo. I'm Domtastic XL. Yeah. So if y'all don't know, you know, I like to use the phrase, that I'm a big kid, or I definitely was a big kid at heart before I had my daughter. She definitely changed a lot for me. Like before, we was kind of carefree, before as far as in, we was married and stuff like that. Obviously, not with that, not with our loyalty, not with our, relationship and stuff like that. So don't, not with that. But we came a long way. We used to party. Like as far as in like together, we homebodies, but we smoked. Like we smoked weed, and that was our thing, y'all. And stuff like that. Let's just say it, and a lot of people do that, so it's not out of the norm. And we smoked heavy. We were heavy smokers. I used to smoke cigarettes, all that stuff. So it wasn't really a reason before for me to slow down. To me, I was young. A lot of people around me, smoking and cigarettes and weed and stuff was part of the norm. Like it just seemed like it was part of the norm and everything. So, when I was younger, I wasn't an advocate for that stuff. But as I got older and, I, got out the house and became on my own more, more independent, meaning like I wasn't in my mom's house basically no more. I at this point, you know, I'm like 19. Like I said, I met him at 19. I'm 20 now. So we moved in together. We got married like 2, 3 months later. So some may argue that we didn't give each other a chance to really learn each other, and that may be true. We was young. Um, he had moved here. He's not. He was born here, but he not from here. If that makes sense, he left when he was so young that he not from here, where I'm from. So um, I'm pretty sure y'all could probably guess where I'm from. Like people probably can already guess that, but yeah. Um, and if you can't, then I don't know. But anyways, y'all, back to the point though. So, some might argue that we didn't give a chance to get to know each other. May be true. You may be right. I don't know. I feel like it's faith, and I feel like how we met on the bus. We literally met on the bus, y'all. He asked to sit down next to me, and me, I was shy at that time. I wasn't doing YouTube, trying to do YouTube or anything like that. I didn't have the confidence to pick up a camera. Barely had the confidence to really even talk to anybody. So they had to talk to me, and then I just was more social before. A lot of how I am now didn't really start developing until I realized what life is for itself. I realized life for what it really was, and it hasn't been sweet to me over the years. I fought a lot of things. I'm stubborn. I can be stubborn, so I made a lot of things hard for myself throughout life and throughout our relationship and stuff, especially like the last couple years. I've been kind of just fed up with how life had been doing me. I used to be more happy, even though I was shy. I used to feel like I used to smile a lot more, and stuff about certain things. But once I, like I said, realized life, you get on your own, you start paying bills, you start really realizing what life is. It takes, of course, the fun out of it. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Y'all know how that is. It's, not just me, but this is just my story, y'all. Um, so yeah, y'all, we tried, and stuff having kids. Of course we had, you figure I'll say, like I was heavier. I had PCOS, probably still got it, I don't know. But I had PCOS. Anybody that knows what PCOS, it affects the infertility, for your fertility, on your chances of having kids, affects your cycles and stuff like that, affects your mood swings and everything too, whether people want to realize it or not. So, and then I'm a person, like I didn't realize before, but I suffer from depression. I realized that now after going into the healthcare field. So the healthcare field has taught me a lot. Would I go back, or at least would I go back to, you know, a nursing home? I used to work in a nursing homes rather. I wouldn't go back to that setting. I don't, like I appreciate what I learned, but I would keep it at that. And if anybody asks me, is it a good field to join? It's a good quick field to join. Like, don't get comfortable. That's what everybody tell you. Just don't get comfortable. Always have a plan B after that. Don't get comfortable. Get in there, make money. Especially if you're a single mom, or if you're a mom or you need money quick, you can get your certificate depending on where you are in about 2 months. It's easy to get those jobs. Right now they hungry, they be desperate, so it's easy to get these jobs. It's also easy to get stuck. It is. You'll tell yourself, "Oh, I'm not gonna be in there more than 5 years. I won't be there longer than 5 years. I'll give it about 2 more years, 7 years, 10 years." So it's very easy to get comfortable. Sometimes the money have you blinded and stuff like that. And if you're a person that just don't like going to school, back to school all these times, you don't, the high school already be enough. You just made it. It's easy to get stuck. So I suggest people to weigh out their options. Like, that's something that, yeah, go to school, but if you got the motivation, especially when you don't have kids, be ready for a plan B. Like, if you're going to end up going for your nursing, pretty much when you're done with that program and you don't found you a job, sometimes they link you up with a job. Pretty much after that, go ahead and be already working on your nursing while it's fresh in your head still, and while before you build your family. But if you ain't got no choice, you ain't got no choice sometimes. I had a choice. I didn't look at it like that. I never thought I'd have kids, y'all, because my doctor telling me I got PCOS, and it just didn't happen. I was overweight, like when we first met, luckily he liked bigger girls at that time, but I'm 5 feet, I used to be heavier. I probably post a picture so y'all can see. Um, but yeah, I used to be heavier. I used to be chunky and stuff like that, and you know, uh, like I'm not gonna say, sometimes, like when I was heavier, I always, obviously a woman, I had insecurities about myself, but I always made sure I dressed nice. Like, my confidence still never lacked. Even like right now, I don't care what anybody thinks about how I look. I'm going to hold my head high and have confidence, because that's not going to lack for me. I'm not going to let nobody see that I'm not confident in myself. I don't care if I'm crying, because I'm very sensitive too. And that has affected a lot, in our relationship or whatever, just to be honest. I'm sensitive. So for me, it's easier to hurt me, and I'm not anybody. I'm talking about people that get close to me. I don't care about what people on social media say. Y'all don't know me. So, like most people say, I really, really don't care. You still viewing my stuff. So that's how I look at it, like that. But for my family or people that, I've let in, that love me now, that say that, that's pure now, you know, it's easy to hurt me with words, but I also realize how my words hurt people. I learned that the hard way. I was always, told, use your words more. Like, yeah, if you need to defend yourself with your fists, yeah, but, I was always told you can't really hurt people with words, like, use your words first. Because, you can't take back fists. You can't take back words either. Like they should have said that part with it too. You can't sometimes take back those words, because they hit just and they cut just as deep, and I have such a filthy mouth when I'm mad. So I have, first off, an anger problem that, never really been addressed. So you taking that, and I really had to learn. I don't have much patience, or I didn't. I really had to learn all that with my daughter, which really sucked. Imagine postpartum depression, not working in the healthcare field, working all the way up to your last 2 weeks. I went in labor with my daughter at 38 and a half weeks. I worked all the way pretty much up until that time. I gave myself 3 days before my due date. Before the due, I was induced. So before the due date that they gave me, I worked 3 days. I'm sorry. Let me make this make sense. I worked and I had 3 days to basically prepare the little rest of the stuff. But we was already prepared, pretty much had the car seat and stuff put together. Once I found out I was pregnant, pretty much, we already started getting her nursery and everything ready. But basically, between work, my last day of work, and me going into the hospital to be induced, I had 3 days. I didn't really have much time to nest and all that stuff like that, y'all. And after having her, I had the little, the maternity leave, the family leave or whatever that is. I had that little time, 2.5 months. But, we struggle. Sure, we need money. I want my daughter to have nice things. So I'm a workaholic. I'm still a workaholic at this point. I didn't start really slowing down on that work and, realizing that work is just working yourself in a grave, and it don't matter how much, for me, at least in my life, that you work. I didn't realize that until pretty much like last year sometime, y'all. Basically, when I stopped practicing the CNA field, that's when I realized, it don't matter what I do. It don't matter what I do with these fields. With this field, I don't want to do that no more. So with our car going down last year, just with a lot of things mixed in that. But just cutting it, getting it kind of to the point basically is, I never really gave myself a time to slow down from working, working so young. My mom struggled, she was a single mom. I'll never forget, like, it's just been some times that we've been through that, I will never forget. My mom was a young mom. I hold that to my heart. She had me and my brother, of course, and she managed. I talk about my mom a lot, y'all. That's the only parent I have. So y'all gonna hear me talking about my mom a lot, and I do get choked up, y'all. So y'all might hear that too. I told y'all already, I'm emotional and stuff. And my mom still, she wasn't perfect, obviously, but she tried to have patience. And I just never could seem to have that patience, y'all. Hold on. Because like I told y'all, I never thought that I was going to be a mom. I always wanted that, like it was marriage. That's the only thing I wanted, was marriage and a child. And I do have that now. For me, the timing of when it happened was like, it threw me off, y'all. I didn't, I knew something was off. When I knew it, when I was pregnant, I knew. I never wanted to be what I consider an older mom. I didn't want to be a teen mom either, y'all. But I always kind of thought I had my life planned out. And it goes, don't plan your life. Don't think you got your life planned out, because life definitely is like a box of chocolate and you do not know what you're going to get. That saying is so true. That's one of my favorite sayings from Forrest Gump. That's my favorite movie. You don't never know what you're going to get out of life. So don't think you got it planned out. That was my problem. Wanting that perfect story, that perfect, what I thought was perfect life. I was a pretty good kid. I didn't really get into fights like that. I didn't really get into trouble like that, I'm gonna be honest. But I had a temper and stuff like that, And no, I wasn't the only child. I'm the oldest. So I have a little brother. So it's not the only child syndrome either. And whatever people probably thinking right now as they're watching this video. It was none of that stuff. But I lacked my dad. A lot of people probably can relate to that too. So I was not used to male, authority or clashing with males like that. I first off never really gave males like that a try like that. I'm not saying that, that I gave the other sex. I'm just saying, like, when things got hard for me, Okay, bye. I'm out. I can go to work. I got my work. I work, to get the thing, if I want, I work, and that made me feel better because I could buy things. And so I kind of really fought my husband for the first couple years and stuff. He also had a bad temper, like his temper just like mine, but he calmed this down. He actually did fight. And, he put that stuff aside from me, but I'm so used to people walking in and out of my life that I really didn't want to give him a chance. Because I was trying to wait for him to, do that same thing. Yeah, you never realize how hard things gonna be until you go to make the videos and stuff yourself, y'all. You never really realize, like, these videos really is hard to make when you're talking about your personal life. But I'm just tired of holding this, you know? And, you know, it was tearing me down, y'all. It was, when they say life would either make or break you, life was starting to break me. I wasn't ready for life like I thought I was. I was ready to be out on my own. People, sometimes rush out. I don't think people do that really too much anymore. That's why you got a lot of people that, stay home because I guess they realize and stuff like that. You got a lot of people, they may have kids and everything themselves, but they stay home because they know that life real, or they go back home or whatever the case is. Yeah, I didn't realize how hard. And see, I have such great pride that, you know, my pride won't allow me to go back with my mom. It would, like if I really, really needed to, yes. But I had let my pride get in the way with a lot of things. And me and my husband is very similar in a lot of ways, so we butt heads sometimes. And it hurts because I'm sensitive. And in the midst of me yelling, or in the midst of us yelling, when we are frustrated, thank goodness our daughter don't be there to hear that stuff. We can manage to pretty much, or I don't know if she hear it. Honestly, I'm being honest with y'all. Obviously, it's not healthy or whatever, but I'm telling y'all, and I'm telling y'all a story behind this. So don't take what I'm saying, like take the words that I'm saying. Don't just, oh yeah, they yelling, don't do that. Don't judge, because just click off, if you're going to be judgmental, basically. If you're not going to hear the whole story and stuff like that, click off. Like, for real. I'm not going back and forth with y'all. It's not y'all life. It's not y'all relationship. So if y'all want to just hear me for pointers on what not to do, or what y'all, maybe a relating thing, or hey, I'm glad that ain't me, then just take it for I'm glad it ain't you. Just, it's not you. That's right. It's not you. That's the point. But when people open up and tell y'all their stories, they tell y'all it for a reason. They don't tell people to judge, so they can be like, well, you shouldn't have put yourself in that, yeah. And you shouldn't have clicked on this video, so, hey. But you did, though. So, yeah. But, yeah, you guys, like, yeah, so when we do, which is very few anymore, because, now we don't pretty much learn each other, learn each other now. So it's like, yeah, you know, um, we give each other that time. We say we gotta say it. We give each other that time to calm down. But see, from being, hurt so many times before from like family, my dad not being there and stuff like that, or, just people, like I said, people coming in and saying they gonna be there for you or not, meaning like, potential father figure, or, my uncles is my great uncles. So they really my mom uncles. And I just say they my uncles. I don't have an uncle. I have great uncles that are older. They are my grandma's, brothers. If that makes sense to y'all. So, they older. They got their lives. They older, if that makes sense. They dealing with health problems and stuff. My grandma is on oxygen. So, I have an aunt. And she just lost her son a couple years ago. The same year I found out I was pregnant. I used to change his diapers. He had just turned 21. His baby was due to be born later that year. This will be his 3rd-year anniversary coming up in May. His birthday was April 16th. His son will be 3 at the end of this year because my daughter will be 3 next year. And if y'all don't like crying sensitive videos for real, click off because I already told y'all. And I don't come to y'all crying like that, so I don't need the BS. I don't need the insensitiveness. I don't need the lack of sympathy, the lack of empathy right now. I don't need that right now. I'm vulnerable right now. So I'm coming to y'all and I'm sharing to y'all right now. Like, for real. So, that hurts. I used to change his diapers when he was a baby. When he was younger. He didn't get a chance to see his son be born now. His child's mother is a single mother. They was engaged. They was, supposed to be married. That's not how, so that's what I'm saying. Life is like a box of chocolate. You don't know what you're going to get because that's not how it's supposed to go. So that really tormented me. And I just felt so guilty for the longest. That's when I got pregnant, y'all. Now all the times that I had prayed, I had already lost the weight by then. I had already been small for like a couple years by then. As far as in the PCOS, they say it's managed best with weight loss. Of course, I was on Deadpool. I tried a couple different birth controls would probably help me blow up. I didn't lose my hair. But, yeah, y'all, I got the braids and still, y'all just, got this bonnet on to try to keep them protected but yeah, y'all, that's what I mean. Like, nobody ever saw that coming, You know, that's just that, that really hurt and it really affected the family. Of course his child mother, that hurt her. That really hurt her bad, too. Just like it hurt his mom. His mom is still not the same. But, people go through stuff or whatever. So, I'm sure she had stuff she was battling before that. And that really just didn't do anything well for her after that. And I'm not going to get into, any of that because that's not for me to talk. I love my family. So, but of course that hurt her. That was her first child. She was a young mother too. She had him also at 16. She got pregnant with him at 16, just like my mom did with me. So, but my mom is older than her, of course. She probably I think my aunt is like 40, 41, 40, something like that. So, yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah, we kind of close in age. She just got me by 9 years or so. And she's like older than my husband by 4 or 5 years. You know, my family had their kids young. My grandma was a grandma by 33. My age. She was already a grandmother. So, yeah. Hold on, I gotta check my daughter real quick, y'all. But yeah, his son is healthy, of course. She definitely is a great mother. Meaning my cousin's child's mother. He a boy, so he was named after his dad. The third, I think, the third junior. Because he was also named after his dad. So his son was named after him to honor on his legacy. I have a, not shrine. I don't like calling it shrines, but I have a shelf for him on my bookshelf. It's literally a shelf just for him on my bookshelf. And, every now and then I'll turn this candle on. I got a, couple, I keep a candle on there. I'll turn it on for him. Um, in April, not that for y'all to see, but I'm gonna be making sure that he had one. He was trying to rap. He was actually getting out there, underground a little bit, but he was getting out there doing little shows and stuff, and he was getting there. And I'm gonna play some of his music for that full month because his birthday is in April, so I'm gonna play it for at least. He would have been, I think, 20. It is sad. Yeah, 24 this year. Not I think. He would have been 24 this year. So I'm gonna play that starting April from April all the way up to April 24th, just to honor him. I really think about him. It's still all this time later. I still think about him every day. I'm haunted by that. The healthcare field. Like some people just don't do good with that kind of stuff, y'all. That's what I'm saying. Like some people don't do good with seeing death. I accept death. I know death coming to everybody, but I just don't do good with seeing that. I've seen it, of course, in the healthcare field. I've seen it. I've held residents' hands through that. Them dying, and residents have died on me, of course, while holding my hand. Right. After I left the room. I've seen that. Like so, that you come numb to that. I didn't have to experience that at Wegmans. I didn't have to. My husband, he's so numb to it because he was in the service. He definitely and lost friends left and right. It hurts. Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize this was about to be this hard, and I knew I wasn't going. I know me. I'm definitely knew I was going to cry at some point. But geez, y'all, it's like cry me a river right now. Like for real, like this, making me feel, like I can't push my pride aside with this, because this is what I struggle with. Um, I don't like being this vulnerable. I really don't like being this vulnerable for everybody, especially when it's not like I got a huge audience. But then I'm glad I don't with cases like this. You know, I don't like being this vulnerable for y'all. I appreciate y'all watching, but I don't like being this vulnerable for y'all. If that makes sense, respect. But and I know I'm putting it out there, so that's what I'm saying. But I just don't like being this vulnerable. Um, but yeah, y'all, he had already been through so much and seen so much that his skin is thicker, and I sometimes, would unknowingly forget he had lost his mom also, like a couple weeks after his birthday. It'd been 10 years, but still, that time, that's when we started smoking together. I did not know what else to do, and I was starting to become depressed myself. I just couldn't even believe or fathom it. It seemed like as soon as I came into his life, it seemed like she passed away, like I said, like, and I was always scared of, like, because he had became my best friend. He is my best friend. And I really took that and ran with it. Like I took it at like we need to. Yeah, I might think I'm delusional, y'all. Like I'm telling y'all for real. Like I can't even get into all that right now. But we, became very inseparable at that point. We was already inseparable. I never really spent too much time away from my husband. All the way from then, except for a shift, a work shift, a double, maybe depending on But I can't be that far away. So we were always like this, like even closer, like this, glued together. And sometimes that wear things thin, unknowingly. And my mom had told me, sometimes it's okay for y'all to have that separation because you don't want to drive each other crazy. I didn't believe her. I didn't want to believe her. Because, when you're fresh, you're in love and all that stuff, give each other a break sometimes, y'all. Like, especially if you trust your spouse. And it wasn't nothing about trust. It just was I was a homebody. He was a homebody. To me, we ain't had no reason to go nowhere. Like when he did have his friends around, yeah, go ahead and hang out. I don't care about that stuff. I trust my husband and stuff like that or whatever. It's just we always was around each other. So, I didn't have much going on that where I need to be this way. You need to be over here. It wasn't like that. And some people probably feel that way too, and stuff like that. But I don't care if it's just like, oh yeah, I used to want him to go with me sometimes to the nail salon, oh, all that stuff, y'all. Go with me shopping, go with me nail salon. Let's go to the park together. Let's, da, da, da. And that dude, where it wear your partner out sometimes. It may not, you may not see it now, but over the years, sometimes even if they ain't cheating or whatever, sometimes that right there is like, they want, you gotta give everybody space. Everybody need their me time. I was so young, I didn't know anything about any of that. I'm so used to, hey, my mom there, but that was my mom. That's how young and naive I was. So when I'm thinking I'm mature, I was really lacking certain things that I just wasn't getting, and I was looking to my husband for everything now. Where my mom left off, I was starting to look to my husband. And so, yeah, I'm growing. Obviously, like I said, anybody can pay bills. So yeah, I'm paying bills and stuff. I'm paying bills. I'm working and everything, but I didn't really start maturing and growing in the ways that I needed to be. Because just because you're 21 and 20 in your 20s, don't make you all over. You don't all got it. Y'all, like I'm not saying everybody's the same, everybody's different. But a lot of people don't have it in their 20s like they think they do. They don't have it all together. It don't matter if you can pay bills and stuff. That don't all matter. You could still pay bills and still be immature and still be petty and still have a bad temper and still not be prepared for mother parenthood and still not, be prepared for everything in life. You can. So that's how it was. Um, I had life all wrong. I thought I had life figured out and I did not. I didn't have life figured out. It had me figured. It had me wrapped around its finger. And I was slowly draining my husband. I was slowly exerting him. My emotions, I'm sensitive. It was slowly becoming too much. And he's not a person that's going to tell me no or tell me, that, I'm doing too much. He's, kind of, he tried to, just deal with that. And then I became, my depression, worsened a little bit, like I said, in a way, because now the sun's out. Now I'm becoming, of course, more reliant on my husband, even while working and stuff. So definitely when we had our daughter, I looked to him. I looked to him for my emotional support. I'm going through PT, I'm going through postpartum at this point. Now I don't want to work because I've worked myself to death by then. I'm already burnt out by 31. And now I need him. I'm so used to people relying on me. I need him now. And he's tired because I didn't know I was already draining him. So don't look at these pretty pictures all the time and think, oh yeah. And no, we're not going through a divorce. I'm sensitive, so I can't cope with the fact that, you know, I'm unknowingly a burden. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want my emotions. I don't want to physically be a burden on anybody. But emotionally, I'm starting to drain and burden my husband. My mom already know. She already knows. Because she know me. So, it's nothing I can tell her that she already know that. But I'm grown. I did this to myself. So be careful. And what I'm saying is treat your spouses, don't take life for granted. Don't take time for granted. Don't take your spouse or partner for granted. And when you're sensitive, go get some help, man. I gotta go get some help. Yeah. Get help so if you do, have a family of your own, or if you do have a family and people get overwhelmed, I get overwhelmed easily. Go find a stranger. It's okay to accept help from strangers, from a therapist. It's okay to have that help. So you're not overloading your partner, because you have to remember they're human too. So yeah, you guys. I hope that story made sense. If y'all need a part two, if it's anything I didn't clarify in there or any questions y'all have that's pertaining to the video and not disrespectful, please go ahead and comment down in the comment section below. I really appreciate y'all for watching me and support me. It's not easy to be vulnerable on this camera for y'all. But I thank y'all for watching it this far. If y'all got this far and stuff like that. Also, if y'all got this far too, like I said, check out that link so that way if y'all, the economy affecting y'all and stuff like it's affecting a lot of people, go ahead and check out that. It's free cash. I'm sure y'all probably heard about that. And the rules is different. I know they be like, oh, it's no way you get 100. No, it's, I'm gonna be honest, it's a playing game. It's a, you play these games, but if you're a person that like to sit and play games all day anyways, you don't feel like doing them surveys and stuff like that, you can build up cash. I already got $10. Like, literally, I just started yesterday, and I was not playing. I literally played, like, for maybe an hour. I wasn't even doing the hardest games. I already got $10, y'all. Simply, and you can withdraw that. Like, seriously, that's lunch money. That's little snack money your daughter need. You need a case of water real quick. That's change, like, for real. And it's just, hey, it's worth a try. So go ahead and try that out, y'all. And I'm about to go ahead and finish my coffee. I got an appointment later and stuff. Jay waking up. But thank y'all for watching this. See y'all in the next video.